Happy Monday, you guys. It's a busy day here at the Kahn household. We have 4-H today. We have driver's training this afternoon, our part 2. And we also have homeschool, we have cleaning, it's bed day. But today I have to squeeze in my sourdough starter feeding. I keep it in the fridge, and I know there's been a lot of questions about how do you go about feeding your starter once you put it in the fridge. So I figured while I bring out my sourdough, I would just show you guys how I do it. Doesn't mean it's the right way, it's just the way I do it. So I'm gonna spin you around, I'm gonna take you to my fridge, and we're gonna bring out our sourdough. Okay guys, so in my fridge, my very packed and messy fridge, way in the back here, if I could dig under the salads, behind all my coffee creamer, that's where I keep my sourdough, in the very back corner of the lowest shelf in my fridge, because that's where I've read is the best place for it. So I keep it in 2 glass mason jar canisters. So I am going to take these over to my counter, and we're gonna feed them, guys. So I am gonna show you exactly what I do and the tools that I use. So here are my starters. This one is the rye, and this one is the whole wheat. I use 1 jelly jar, mason jar. I use a spatula scraper. This one happens to be from KitchenAid, and I use a kitchen scale. All right, I'm getting out 1 glass measuring cup, and I'm gonna fill this up with warm water. I use my tap water, but if you're on city water and you have chlorine in your water, you're gonna wanna use bottled water. Just warm it up in a saucepan or in the microwave for a few seconds. So now the way that I do it is I do 100, 100, 100. All right, so let me see how I can set this up where you guys can see it the easiest way. All right, so let's start with our wheat. So I'm gonna crack open my wheat, and what I do, there it is. Now it's got a little bit of hooch, so that's the alcohol. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and in my sink, just kind of pour that out. It'll come right out. That just means that my sourdough is hungry. It should have been fed yesterday. So, all right, and then I'm just going to get this on camera here. I'm just gonna go ahead and give this a stir. Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and weigh this. What I do is I go ahead and I just put my jelly jar on there, and I cancel it out, get it back to 0. Then what I'm gonna do, without hitting the camera, Heather, I'm going to, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do that with my carpal tunnel. All right, I'll have to just do it this way, guys. I am going to pour 100 grams of starter into, now it's going to be a little stretchy like dough because it's cold. I'm not even warming it up. I just want to show you how easy this is. So you guys know exactly how I do it. Okay, that's 136. It's a little much. So we'll take some out of there. 114. Take a little pinch more. Okay, 103. All right, I'm good with that. Now, with this pour off, I could use it if I was baking today. I'm not baking, so I'm putting it down my drain because, quite frankly, my septic system likes it. So that's 103. Now, before I can do anything with this, I need to clean out this jar. Many people have asked me, why do you have to clean your jar? Well, if you don't, you risk growing mold. You also risk just this drying up and getting really nasty. And I want to keep my sourdough starter as clean and as healthy as possible. So for me, I just like to clean it out and keep everything as clean as possible. So I'm going to take you over to my sink. We're going to clean this. What I'm doing is running the hot water, and then I'm just going to go ahead and get my starter out of here. And forgive my claw grips. My carpal tunnel is been awful lately. So, alright, so there's my starter. Going right down the drain. And that's really good for my septic. So, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I am going to just clean this out. It does not need soap or water. All it needs is really hot water. And just a good rinsing, just to get all of that starter that's dried off on the edges off. And make your jar nice and clean. Clean the spatula here. Don't need that anymore. Off to the side on the towel. Okay, and then that is it. We have a nice clean jar. All right, let's go back and let's feed our starter. Okay, so now we're gonna put our jar on here. We're gonna cancel that back to 0. I'm gonna go ahead and get my clean spatula here, and we're just gonna take our starter. We're gonna plop it right back inside. Okay. As long as you're somewhere right around 100, we're at 98 right now, and this should be 100. There we go. So there's 100. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and take our warm water. I'm going to cancel this back to 0, and then I'm going to go ahead and add 100 of water. Well, there's 125, so that's a little more. That's okay. That's all right. Doesn't have to be exact. And what we'll do is we'll just add a little bit more flour. So what do we have? 124. So we'll add 124 of whole wheat. Okay. There's 54. 109. 115. Some people feed their starter 50, and then they start with 50 grams of starter, and then do 100 water, 100 flour. So having a little bit more isn't going to be a big deal. And I have gotten pretty relaxed at doing starter now, because I've tried several different ways, and my starter just always seems to be happy. So that's it. Okay, so we have 125 on there right now, so I'm going to scoot that over, and then what I do is I just go ahead and give this a nice stir. Now I don't want to get too crazy up on the sides, because remember, this is going to sit in the fridge, and I don't want this jar dirty, as least dirty as possible up on the sides. So give that a good stir and get that starter mixed in really well. And I'm going to scrape down the sides as much as possible. Make sure all that flour is stirred in there. And I'm just going to let that sit opened on my counter and let it breathe and let it eat. And then we're going to go ahead and now we're going to do the same exact thing with our rye. And I don't even clean, I don't even wash this. It just has starter in it. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that out. And this is my rye starter. And this one has, if I can show you this one. This one has no hooch in it at all. It's beautiful. It's just hungry. It's a little flat. So, cancel that out. I'm going to go ahead and give this a stir. Okay, and then same thing. Put that rubber gasket over there. Same thing here. pour out about 100 grams, a little bit more. That way if I lose any in the jar, it's not a big deal. Okay, it's going to be nice and thick because it's cold. Okay, that's 122. I'll just take a smidgen off of there. Okay, 112, that's good for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this, you know, again, if you wanna use this in a recipe, go ahead. I don't have time for that today. I'm gonna go ahead and feed it to my septic. You can also put it in your compost pile too, I believe. So, but I'll be right back. Let me go clean that out. All right, so let's turn this back on. Take that off. Good. Okay, and now we're at 0, so I'm gonna go ahead and put my starter back in. Okay, and we have 103. That's good for me. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the rye flour out. And then 105 is good. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and add 124 of water. So we're going to go ahead and add about 20 more grams of flour just to kind of even it out a little bit. There we go. All right, so give this a stir. And the same thing, I'm going to just leave this out on the counter and let it breathe and let it warm up, let it wake up, let it start eating. And as soon as I start seeing it come alive and start eating again, that's when we put it back in the fridge for a week. Because putting it in the fridge doesn't stop it from eating, it just slows it way down. So instead of having to feed this every day, we only have to feed it once a week, but it's still going to eat. So we don't want to put it in when it's, you know, at the height of eating, because it'll have nothing to eat all week long. So we want to put it back in our fridge when it starts to eat so that it will be healthy for a week. It'll have a whole week to slowly eat that flour and that water. So I'm going to clean down the sides as much as I can. And then there is my rye. Okay, so I'm going to set that off to the side. I'm going to go about my day. I'm going to start my laundry. I'm going to clean up my kitchen. I'm going to feed the kids lunch, and then we're going to start homeschooling. And I'm going to check back with this in about an hour. I'm going to set a timer just so I can check it in an hour. It might be 2 hours because, like I said, my kitchen's very cold. But once this starts waking up and starts eating, I'll bring you back. I'll show you what that looks like, and then we'll put it back in the fridge for a week. Okay, guys, so it's been an hour, and if you look at this, you can see that my starter is waking up and it's starting to feed. It's getting the holes. It's looking beautiful. This one, same thing, right there. You can see that it's starting to waken up and liven up and starting to eat. So at this point, this is when I go ahead and I'm going to close these up. And they're going to go right back into my fridge, right in the back of the fridge, where they will sit for another week. Or if I do want to bake bread later on this week, I will bring it out. I will let it warm up on the counter for about an hour. I'll feed it. Then I'll let it grow. So I'll do this early in the morning. If I'm going to do bread, I'll get up. When I get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll bring it out. I'll feed it just like we just did. But I will allow it to sit on my counter and start to rise and start to rise and start to rise. And that's when I will take from it while it's rising, and I'll use it in a bread. Then I'll weigh it back out before I put it back in the fridge. I'll make sure that it has 100, 100, 100. And the same thing. Let it sit for about an hour, let it start feeding, and then back in the fridge it goes. So that's how I've been using mine. Hoping that this was somewhat helpful to you to see what I do and how I do my sourdough. If you have any questions for me, leave them down below. I will try my very best to answer them for you. But yeah, that's about it. That's how I do mine. So I'll be seeing you guys back here soon in the next day or so for another video. I have a couple of video ideas that I have in my head for you guys that I want to do. One of them is going to be a pesto twist bread. We've done cinnamon, we've done chocolate. Now we're going to do a savory pesto twist bread. And I'm gonna be making it on a night where I'm making spaghetti for the kids. So I'll see you back here in the next day or so for that video. Yeah, and I hope this was helpful. All right, see you soon, guys. Right back in the fridge. They sit for another week or until I want to bake with it.